Welcome to the BrightWord Books podcast. BrightWord is a leading platform for diverse storytelling, where voices from all backgrounds can share their unique narratives and connect with readers from around the world. Follow our regular podcast updates, where we strive to foster a literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Good afternoon, and welcome to the BrightWord Books podcast. I'm John Lobb, and today it's my pleasure to be joined by Tamara Miller. Tamara has a story of devastating, unexpected loss that left her a widow after 58 years of marriage. To be sure, her marriage was strong and happy. Neither she nor her husband had any health issues. They had 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. They felt truly blessed. But tragedy struck, and Tamara was blindsided by how unprepared she really was, and by the cascade of challenges that followed. She felt compelled to share her story and help other women be better prepared for the unexpected. In her book, she offers a practical list of what you need to know, based on how many surprises she faced while putting her affairs in order. Tamara, welcome to the podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, John.
And since your last appearance, how have things changed either in your life or in your process of recovery?
I think they've changed much other than doing the podcast. I had to relive a lot of things that I was surprised I wasn't, going to have to do. It brought back a lot of memories.
Was that painful or was it healing in a sense to
It was a little
relive?
bit both. Some of my memories are, my husband was ridiculous at some times, and some of those memories are just so happy and like that. But then they're sad when I realize he is gone. And I had a way of measuring how I was getting better. I walked every morning when he was alive. And when I got home, he'd always say, "How's your walk, hon?" Oh, it was good. After he passed and I went on my walk, it was about 3 miles, and I started to come home, I would start crying. And I would cry all the way home because I know once I got there, he was not going to be there to say, "How was your walk?" I measured my healing by how many Kleenexes I used walking home. Gradually, they got fewer and fewer, then I knew I was getting better and better.
Wow. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that you were that sad, but it's understandable after 58 years of marriage.
Yes.
And without dredging up a bad memory, Tamara, can you share a little bit about what happened? How were you separated?
This was the worst day of my life. And we have a river home, a mobile, and we would go sometimes for a 3 or 4 day vacation, like every other week. We are water skiing families, and he likes to fish. And it's 100 degrees there, and the first thing he does is mow the yard. So this was just a normal time we were going for the weekend. And when we got there, I said, "Honey, please don't mow the yard. It's 100 degrees. Wait till it cools down." He says, "Well, I think I'll go in and watch television." Well, he was a NASCAR fan, so I thought, I know he's going in to watch TV. I was setting up the patio chairs. I'm talking about 5 to 7 minutes from the time he went in. When I went in, there he was in the chair, non-responsive, just staring.
I'm so
And I
sorry.
grabbed him and I said, "No, don't do this now." I knew it was something awful was happening. And just like, our family and marriage, we were so blessed. Everything was going so nice. And I grabbed him. I said, "Don't do this now." And so I called 911, and they told me to put him on the floor. I says, "He's dead weight. I can't pick him up." She says, "Put him on the floor." She wasn't going to
That's
take
an
my
order.
excuses. Yeah. So I slipped my hands underneath his arms and I said, "Honey, I don't know whether you can hear me or not, but I'm going to have to pick you up and put you on the floor. So any help you can give me, I would appreciate it." Well, of course, he was dead weight. But I did pick him up and I was able to lay him on the floor. And so the 911 operator asked me if I knew how to do chest compressions. And I said, vaguely, I think I could do it. So we started counting, and I was doing the chest compressions, and I was waiting for, of course, an ambulance or has been contacted. And where we have our mobile is off of an Indian reservation, and it's about 35 minutes from the local Indian hospital. So I knew it was going to take some time. But as the time went on so long, and I kept yelling, when are they coming? When are they going to be here? And I kept pressing his chest. She says, just hang on. They're on their way. And then I'd wait. I go, when are they coming? Where are they? You know, I was in a panic.
I
They
don't
did.
blame you.
Yeah, they did finally show up, and they said, thank you, ma'am. You've done a good job. What you just said. In other words, get out of the way. Go sit over there on the couch, which I did. And they said, also go out to the waterfront. We have an ambulance coming by boat, some doctors. I want you to meet them there and then show them where we are. Okay, that gave me something to do. I figured this must be a heart attack. What else could it be? Because we're really virtually healthy. And so I went out and I saw the boat come, and the doctors got out with their cases, and we ran up to the mobile home. They were still working on him. Probably 10 minutes more, and they said, we're going to take him to the hospital. I said, okay. I thought, that's good. If he needs to be at a hospital, there'll be doctors taking care of him. They started putting him in the ambulance. I said, can I go with you? And they said, no, we don't have enough room. We have to use the room we have to work on him. There was a fireman standing there, and he said, well, do you think you can drive? Of course, I automatically answered, sure, I think I could drive. And then I realized how shaken I was. And I said, no, I can't drive. He says, well, come on, I'll take you to the hospital. So
Good
on the
deal.
way, we talked about how good our life was. And this is just something we're going to have to get through. He's going to have to get better. He's just going to take some time. Then we'll get back to our regular routine. He was such a nice fireman and kept me talking, so I wouldn't
Hmm.
think about things. He says, well, I have seen this before, and I don't want you to get your hopes up too high. I said, okay. So we got to the hospital, and I couldn't see him. The fireman says, let me go in and check. And he came back. He said, good news, we've got a heartbeat. Okay. In my mind, it must be a heart attack. Everything's going to be okay. We'll get, discombobulated for a while, but we'll get back to things.
Hmm.
And then I came back and they said, we're going to air vac him to Lake Havasu. Well, there's a bigger hospital there, better doctors. I was glad with that. And I said, can I go with you? No, the helicopter has so much weight. Well, they let me see him. So I went in and I talked to him. I told him what was going on. I told him they were going to take him to Lake Havasu. I'm sure there's a better no acknowledge from him at all, nothing.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you hear that they can hear what you're saying. So I hopefully it was. And I
Yeah.
told him I couldn't go with him, but I'll be at the hospital as soon as I can. So I waited and they loaded him on the helicopter. I stood in the parking lot and waved goodbye. And so now I had to get back to my mobile home. And the fireman says, I'll take you back. And he took me back. Meanwhile, I had called my daughter and son. They're 4 hours away, but they got right in their cars as fast as they could, and they were on their way. When I got back to the mobile home, my daughter got me on the phone. She says, there's a couple that we know, and they're going to take you to the hospital. I said, that's wonderful because I really don't think I could drive. So we drove to the hospital. When we got there, of course, I asked to see him, and they said, no, you can't see him right now. You can't understand why they wouldn't let me see him. And they said, you'll have to wait for the doctor. So they took me up to the floor where he was staying. I couldn't go in to see him yet. I had to wait till the doctor came. So the doctor sat down with me and he said, well, I can fix a heart. What a relief that was. Then he
Hmm.
said, but I can't fix a brain. He'd had a blood clot that went from his leg to his heart to his brain.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So sorry
So
for your
they
loss.
were going to put him on life support. And I sat and waited. And my kids came and grandkids came and his sister came from out of state and the cousin came. We had about 13 people there. And I'm telling you, I needed every bit of their love to get through this. It was
Absolutely.
just, that was just a wonderful time.
I want to find out if what others have felt too, that you wrote the book, and I'm sure you've had feedback from others. Can you talk a little bit about what you've heard from readers?
Sure. Um, because of some of the things that I told them that they needed to do with if one spouse is doing the banking, then you better know those passwords because you're going to, if you're left behind, you're going to get in, have to get into that. And then I said, you need to have a family trust because you need to know what everybody's wishes were. And we had done a family trust about 2 months before this because we were
Right.
concerned about our travel back and forth to the river. We could get in an accident. What would the family do? And so we had just finished our family trust.
Well, that's good. That's good.
So, yeah, I had one of the women said, I was telling them how important it is that you get your house in a trust because if something happens to one of you and you don't have a will or trust, probate will come and take your house and then you will have nothing. So one of my friends said, you know, when I got married, my husband already had his house. She says, I better make sure I'm on that deed. And I says, yes, you better. Another fella said to
Indeed.
me, he says, you know, my wife does all the banking and everything. He says, I better find out what those passwords are.
Absolutely.
So I think
Absolutely.
a lot of them really realize the importance of some of the things I mentioned. Yes.
Absolutely. And my guess is that many people, they don't want to think about a time when they'll be alone, or that if a couple's together over 50 years, as you and your husband
Yes.
were, they don't want to think about the fact that one could go before the other. But of course, in many cases, one does go before the other. And statistically, the man will die before the woman, the husband before the wife. So it sounds like a wonderful thing you've done to reach out to maybe women in particular who may
Yes.
be left behind
Yes.
and were afraid to ask for the bank password or never got around to setting up a trust like you did, that if you're not prepared, you could be facing some horrible decisions at the worst part of your life. You've already had a horrendous loss. You don't need the headaches of figuring out the banking and the insurance and the trust at that time.
And all that paperwork starts coming in. Once you have your death certificate, you have to file it with this person, you have to take it to the bank. All this paperwork was coming in. We had some investments too. Paperwork that was coming in. Thank goodness I had a business background. If I hadn't, I would have sat at my kitchen table and just bawled my eyes out.
Absolutely. And I understand the book includes a must-know list. Is that certain items that everybody must know to be prepared?
Well, some of them are really silly, but number one was you better get a family trust.
Well,
The
nothing
other
silly about that.
the other thing that was things that popped up that I took for granted. Randall did the lawn sprinkler. I never paid any attention to how the sprinkler works or how you set the timer on it. So I had a problem with the sprinkler. And one of my friends that I had interviewed, she said, oh, I had the same thing, but I thought I had it all figured out. So I put it on 10 because I figured it would come on at 10 o'clock at night. Well, instead, it ran 10 hours straight. So
No.
she had to face that. And I had some work done in the backyard. I added on a room, and when the workers they cut one of the gas lines. This is another thing. You need to make sure that on your utilities Just because you bought the house together and you set up everything, you better make sure you're both on the utility. Because I called to get the gas line fixed, and they said, well, ma'am, you're not on the account. So they had to come out, turn off the gas, close the account, and open it up in my name. The same thing happened with electricity. I called and I wanted to have it set up where they're equal amounts throughout the year, instead of big
Mm-hmm.
lump sum. She says, well, ma'am, you're not on the account. I says, I've been making the payments for 60 years because I handled the finances. She says, well, you're not on the account. She says, we'll have to close out the account and reopen it. So I had to go down to the city hall, close it out and reopen it. And then I said, now can I have the equal payments? And she says, no, you don't have a track record. I've been,
No track record. I've been taking
because it was a
electricity from
new
you guys
account.
for 60 years.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Wow. Well, that just goes to show, I'm sure you guys did have gas service and electricity service, plumbing, sewer for 50, 60 years at your home. And yet, when your name isn't on the bill, they treat you like a stranger. It's something everyone needs to think about. And
Yes,
I know my mom went through the same thing. My dad passed away several years ago. And I think she really could have used your book, to be honest. She
yeah.
went through a big struggle figuring out a lot of the forms, Social Security, the Medicare. There's so much to think about. And again, you don't want to have to think about all these details when you're already distraught. You're already at the worst thing that could ever happen in your life. You don't need all these extra details. So for those who say, I can't afford to think about that stuff, but it makes me squeamish. Guess what? You can't afford not to think about it, right? You've got to be prepared.
And there's forms in the back of the book for you to fill out who your health insurance is with, who's your car insurance with, who the mortgage is with, what credit cards you have, because that's another thing. If your name isn't on the credit card, if you think you're going to use it, you got another thing coming.
Wow. Well, that makes it very especially useful for people that buy the book to have those checklists. It helps them make sure they're covering every single possible item
Yes.
and makes it so easy. All you have to do is fill out the
Pick
forms.
up the book and look at the forms.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I have a feeling that your husband is very proud of the way that you've handled things.
I hope so. I hope
Well,
so.
I believe so. I really do. And speaking of your husband, I noted that you had some sessions with a medium. Can you talk a little bit about that spiritual connection that the medium helped you achieve?
That was a wonderful experience. And I know people need to, if they're going to do it, they need to make sure they've got the right one.
Hmm.
The first group, the first time I worked no, was really that I went to see one in Las Vegas, and she described the mobile home, of course, with the front room. So she thought it was in the front room of our home. She described the chair he was in. She described the other furniture in the room. And then she talked about him a little bit and described him. And he came forward. And when you say come forward, he talks to the medium, who then talks to me. And he said, you couldn't have done anything. There was nothing I could have done. He says, and I saw everybody at the hospital, all the family. I saw you all around. I saw you do compressions on my chest. Well, just that little bit of information was so healing for me that
Absolutely.
when I got back to town, I told my granddaughter about it. Well, so she found a medium here in the area, Santa Ana, about 40 minutes away. So she was having groups of 10. So we thought, well, we'll try it. We're not totally sold on it, but I was amazed what that one lady had told me. So we were sitting in a group. There was 10 people in the group. That's how she would take it. And there was my son's girlfriend. Then there was my granddaughter that is the closest to him. And then there was me and then my daughter. And she looked at me and she said, Your husband is standing between you and your granddaughter. So we both looked. We couldn't see anything. And she says, he is with a child whose feet has never touched the ground. That was really puzzling. And then she said to me, did you lose a child? I said, yes, I did at birth. She says, they're together. It gives me goosebumps again to talk about it. That was just so
Absolutely.
wonderful. How would she know that?
Absolutely.
I mean, you
Wow.
think these mediums know they go here and go there. Well, how would she know that? She wouldn't. So again,
Wow.
I just believed everything. And he was really chatty and he wanted to talk. She had to get on to the other people there. And she said to me, she says, you really need to have a private reading. So I did. And I had her come to the house. And she said I could have 9 friends. So I had my granddaughter, the other granddaughter, because she says, I'm missing out. I want to hear all this. And so she sat down and she started talking to my other granddaughter who was getting married. And she said, I'm just sick that Papa's not going to be here because we were going to have our first dance together at the wedding. She says, and she started crying. She says, I'm just sick about it. And the medium says, he will be there. You will know when he is there. During the reception, it was outside, all the lights out in the patio, everything went off. We were in the black. We said, Papa's here.
Wow. What an experience.
Yes,
So it sounds like for those in our audience who maybe are skeptical of mediums, it sounds like you can attest that you've had a real experience, but at the same time, it's very important to choose the right medium, right?
yes, yes,
Make sure that you find the person that works for you.
yes, because I had a dear friend pass away. And so I thought I would like to make sure he's okay. So instead of going back to that medium, which I should have, I found one online and went to her. The medium, the good medium, I didn't have to give her names or anything. She would come up with an initial and then you would match the name with the initial. This other medium, the bad medium, she wanted no names and she wanted this. And then she told me he's in a bad place, but she could fix it. We would light candles. And I thought, oh, yeah, you're going to fix it. All right. So she was a fake one. Okay.
So
So,
watch out for the fakes is what you're saying.
yeah, I walked out of there and I thought, I'm never going back to anyone other than this other one. And I went to her about 5 times after the group meeting. And he would come forward and he would talk to tell me things. And one of the things she says, he says he sees that you've done a monument in the backyard for him or a memorial because he just loved the backyard. And it says, if stars were stairs and memory was a lane, I would take the stairway and bring you back home again. And
Beautiful.
yeah, I just love that. It's still out there. I was cleaning up the other day. And then she said to me, she said, I smell lemons. She says, do you have a lemon tree? I says, oh, yes, we have a lemon tree in the back. And all the kids come over with their bags and pick lemons. She says to tell you that he sees them all when they come to the lemon tree.
How
But
wonderful.
that's just so rewarding to know those things.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
One of the things
Speaking
that,
of your children and grandchildren, Tamara, as you've gone through this process, both of the practical details of sorting out the documents and the insurance, but also the emotional details of recovering as a person with the help of the medium, has it changed your relationship at all with your kids or your grandkids?
well, in a way, my husband was the godfather of the family. His rule was the rule. Okay. I was a little shadow over there that made sure that the feathers didn't get ruffled. Well, now that he's gone, I'm the elder of the family, and they come to me with their problems. They come to me for advice in the workplace. I had 12 years in banking, so they come to me with their financial things. So that is how it's changed.
Excellent. So you've kind of stepped into the role of the elder of the family.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. And I'll bet you do a wonderful job at that.
Well, I work at it, yeah.
And do you feel that your healing is complete, or will it be an ongoing process, do you think, for the rest of your life?
Well, grief and healing is not forgetting. You never will forget. You may grieve forever, but that's okay. And why shouldn't it be? You've been married for such a long time, and you miss him so much that,
Of course you do, right? You have every right to miss him after 58 years of
yeah,
marriage.
you just have to become whole again and know that this is now your journey. It's your journey. I hate to say this, I don't want this to sound too cold. I'm not dead yet. So I'm on a journey of my own. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. An inspiring journey indeed. Indeed. If there's one thing that you would hope viewers take away from our discussion or readers take from your book, just one thing, Tamara, what would that be?
Well, like I've said before, you have to keep busy. You can't sit at home, watch television, and read books. You've got to find something that will interest you. I joined a volunteer group of women, and that's what I would suggest to them. Find a group or something in the community where you can give back to people. You help them, that makes you feel good. That keeps you busy, keeps your mind off things. My saying is reinvent yourself. You have to reinvent yourself. You have to reacquaint yourself. Who am I? I'm no longer Randall's wife. I'm Tammy Miller. So you just have to start your journey on your own. And please, please find a group and keep busy. If you have a craft, end up sharing it with somebody. That's the key. You have to keep busy.
Absolutely. What an inspiring story, Tamara. And I think if you could do it after 58 years of marriage, anyone can do it.
That's true.
Just
That's
got to
true.
find this the strength and the willpower to do it. So
Hmm.
thank you so much for being with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Well, thank
And
you.
for those who are interested, I'm sure the book is available on Amazon and everywhere fine books are sold. What the Hell Just Happened by Tamara Miller. I love that title.
Well, one day I just collapsed on the floor. You have to give yourself permission to cry because you're keeping a straight face. Because you don't want the family to worry about you. One day I just collapsed on the kitchen floor and had a big boo-hoo. And I said, what the hell just happened? That's how the title came about.
I love it. I love it. Well, Tamara, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you, John. I enjoyed it, and I sure hope I helped some people.
Absolutely. I'm sure you will. We've been visiting with Tamara Miller, and the title again is What the Hell Just Happened? And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next BrightWord Books podcast.
You've been listening to the BrightWord Books Podcast, home of the literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss future episodes. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.